the second round of the NBA playoffs going on right now, the Eastern and Western Conference semis, and it's got a great 8 teams that we have left in the NBA playoffs. Such outstanding stories for each of them. We have such great matchups, really, between all 8 of these teams. And let's jump right into my picks and predictions for each of these series. And the first series we're going to be talking about is the number 3 seeded Golden State Warriors taking on the number 2 seeded Memphis Grizzlies. Game 1 is going on as I'm recording this right now, and this is such an intriguing series because the Grizzlies are just such an electric team. But the Warriors do have the experience, they do have the better shooting. But let's talk about each of these teams. The Warriors, they beat the Nuggets in 5 with Steph playing on the bench for the majority of the series, and Steph put up 30 points in the Game 5 of the closing, and he was really good. I'm really not sure how the Grizzlies will be able to stop him in any way now that he's going to be in the starting lineup. But also not sure how the Warriors are going to be able to stop Ja Morant, because he's been big time and clutch when needed throughout the series against the Timberwolves, where they've had to make a few big comebacks late to really win that series 4-2. But Ja Morant, 21 points per game so far in the playoffs with some crazy dunks. I think Memphis really is a complete team because they have a whole bunch of players that really complement each other really well. Jaren Jackson Jr. has been really good inside, getting rebounds. Dylan Brooks and Desmond Bane both been outstanding shooting and scoring. But however, for the Warriors, you have the emergence of Jordan Poole, who really took off in the first few games of that series against the Nuggets. He averaged about 21 points per game, especially with Steph coming off the bench, and he shot a career high 93% in that first round from the free throw line. So, it's going to be Memphis is going to be fighting back, I think, in the majority of this series. I would not count them out at all. But the Warriors, they're back, man. That's just how it is. The Warriors are back, and they're looking good. Klay Thompson is back, shooting 46% from 3, 23 points per game. And, I just have the Warriors winning this game and winning this series in 6 games. The Warriors, like I said before, they have the experience, they have the better shooting. Golden State isn't going to be giving up those big leads that the Timberwolves gave up, because that was the kind of team that the Timberwolves were. They kept shooting, they kept missing so much, unlike the Rockets. And I think Memphis impresses. They do get 2 wins in the series, but I think that's it. Draymond Green does a great job in the paint, and I think the Warriors just pile it on. And the next series we're going to be talking about is the one that I am really, really excited for, and that's the number 4 seeded Dallas Mavericks taking on the number 1 seeded Phoenix Suns in the conference semis. Talking about the Mavericks, they've been outstanding. They beat the Utah Jazz 4-2, where Jalen Brunson was really leading the way for Dallas, helping beat the Jazz obviously in 6 games, and helping the Mavs advance to the second round for the first time since 2011, where they won it all. And Brunson, he averaged about 28 points per game in that series, with 48% shooting, 36% from 3, including 41 points in a huge Game 2 victory at home. And then we had Luca Doncic, who made his first appearance in Game 4 in Utah. He had a solid series, I would say, considering he just came back from his injury. He actually had a lot of points. He averaged about 29 points per game in the 3 games that he played. In the last game that closed out Game 6, he had 24 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, really putting in complete performances, shooting around 36% from downtown. And really throughout that series against Utah, the Mavs shot incredible as a team from 3, and a big reason why they won. And that's what they're going to have to do if they're going to have any chance against the Phoenix Suns. They are a much better team this year with Jason Kidd as their head coach, but they're going to have their hands full with DeAndre Ayton, the Suns center, inside, because they don't have the best defense inside the paint. You do have Maxi Kleber, but again, there's not like a big force that the Mavericks have inside the paint. So I think DeAndre Ayton could be having a big-time game. Spencer Dinwiddie, he has to be more consistent as, I think, a number 3 scoring option for this Mavericks team. He only averaged about 15 points per game. Didn't show up too much in games 4 and 5. But look, the Mavericks have great shooters, and the way they shot against Utah, if they can replicate that, great shooters like Maxi Kleber, Dorian Finney-Smith, I think if they can do that, Mavericks will be well on their way. But they're going to have to figure out a way to somehow slow Ayton inside. I don't know how that will happen. And talking about the Suns, like I said, DeAndre Ayton is going to, I think, have a field game against the Mavericks. don't have much of an inside presence. But really, it's CP3 who's looking just as good as he's ever been. At 37 years old, in Game 6 in New Orleans, he closed it out. Was a perfect 14 out of 14 from the field with 33 points and plus 8 assists. And he's averaging 12 assists per game, which is the highest of his career in the playoffs. And he's averaging about 22 points per game in each of these playoff games. Really stepped up big time without Devin Booker, who went down with that grade, I think it was a grade 2 hamstring, if I'm correct. But Booker came back. D-Book came back in Game 6. He had 13 points in 32 minutes. Not sure how effective he's going to be in the start of this series. I think the Mavericks really need to focus on DeAndre Ayton, who averaged about 20 points per game against the New Orleans Pelicans against Valanciunas. And I think CP3 is going to have to lead the way like he did. It's good because he's coming back. He came back late from his injury just before the season ended. So again, a little bit more fresh than he normally is, I would think. I think it's going to be an amazing series, really fun offensively. I think the Suns play some really good perimeter defense. And they'll have to do it, and they'll play great defense inside like they always do. And I think the Suns win this series in 7 games, but I won't be surprised if the Mavericks do pull this out. I'm really looking forward to this one. Should be really fun offensively. I think the Suns, again, they play better defense. CP3 experience, he will play a big factor. I think at some point the Mavericks are going to stop, or their shooting is going to cool down. But I think they really struggle defensively, the Mavericks. And then the next series is the other Eastern Conference semifinals. The number 2 Boston Celtics taking on the number 3 Milwaukee Bucks. As I recorded this, the Bucks did win today, 101-89. I think this is going to be a very physical series, like we saw today. Both teams have great defense. And we'll see what happens. But again, Giannis, he's going to have to lead the way like he did today. 24 points. I think he had a triple-double as well. Really complete game from Giannis today. Going to have to make it up since Middleton, who knows when he's going to be back, maybe Game 3. But Giannis is going to have to play the best that he's ever had. And he did that today. He's going to have to play physical and fast like he did. And 29 points per game against the Bulls, where the Bucks beat them in 5 games handily. Brook Lopez is going to have to be key, as well as Drew Holiday, who I think showed up offensively as well today. I think the Bucks are going to have to play some really strong defense and try and limit Jaylen Brown, who attacks the rim really well. And then for the Celtics, they've been amazing. They swept the Nets 4-0. They've been 28-7 after January 23rd. They've been the best offensive and defensive team in the NBA in that stretch. But they did lose today. They shot really bad from the field. Not from the field, but really from 3 as well. I believe they can do a good job on Giannis, but they're going to have to be a little bit more physical on defense. I feel like they got tired a little bit today. Hard traps, physical defense, focus on him early, but, I don't know how long Middleton is going to be out, so that's going to play a huge factor again. I think that's why the Celtics have an advantage in this series because of Middleton being out. Jason Tatum, he was great against the Nets, really bad today. He averaged about 30 points per game against the Nets. They're not that great of a defense. Milwaukee is a really good defense, so we'll see. Al Horford has been great as well. I think Robert Williams is going to have to do a much better job to try and stop Giannis. And Jaylen Brown, he really did not do too good today at all. He averaged about 23 points per game against the Nets. Really needs to step up. And I am going with the surprise here. I do think the Celtics win this series in 7. The Bucks did win easily today. But look, I think the Celtics will step up their defense. I don't think Giannis will be able to carry them the whole entire time. I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum definitely will be stepping up. And Boston, they do play really good when it's a close game. It just wasn't close today. So I think their defense will step up, and we'll see what happens. And then the last series, the other Eastern Conference semis, the Miami Heat, the number 1 seed, taking on the Philadelphia 76ers, the number 4 seed. This series really just shifted because of Embiid's injury, Joel Embiid, because of his injury. Really, really big issue if you're the 76ers. He just gets injured every time in the playoffs, and that's not what you're looking for. This series does have a lot of injuries. Kyle Lowry is out for Game 1 today. Tomorrow should be back at least by Game 3. I'd hopefully see that. Jimmy Butler, he's suffering from some injury, but he'll be playing tomorrow. And the Heat are just so well coached. They should be fine even with their injuries. Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler in the pick and roll, shooting in Duncan Robinson. And if you're the Sixers without Joel Embiid, that's a big, big loss there. Really, really sets you down against the Heat. But Tyrese Maxey, who's been great so far, especially against Toronto, he's going to have to step up. Had 21 points per game, shot 41% from 3. He's going to have to step up big time. And then most importantly, James Harden is going to have to step up. He always gets unlucky come playoff time. This time with Embiid being out for at least the first 2 games, probably the first 3. He's going to have to play well as a team leader. A lot of injuries on both sides, like I said before, but I think the Heat take this in 6 games. Harden has not been too great in the playoffs compared to his standards. Only 19 points per game, 40% from the field. He's going to have to step up. He's just not been consistent. Even though Lowry, Jimmy Butler, and company, they're going to play some really strong defense, get after the Sixers, hold them back, and I think the Heat win this in 6 games. And then let's just keep going in the playoffs based on my predictions. Let's just finish off the bracket here, my NBA playoffs bracket. In the Western Conference Finals, I have the Warriors taking on the Suns, and I do think that the Suns can win this series in 7 games. That's going to be a lot of fun. I think the Suns play some really good defense late, and the Suns can go back and forth to Golden State. That's a big reason why I have them winning. And then on the other side, the Eastern Conference Finals, again, going with an upset here. I think the Celtics win it in 7. Again, a really tough series against the Bucks, really tough series against Miami, but I think their defense matches up just as good as Miami does. They do have some scores on this team that I think show up late, like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So I think the Celtics win it, and that leads me to my NBA Finals matchup. I think it's the Celtics versus the Suns, and I think the Suns win the NBA Finals in 6 games. We'll see what happens. I think the Celtics do get a little tired after playing back-to-back 7-game series. I think the Suns are a little bit more fresh because Chris Paul, he came back from his injury right before the playoffs looking as good as ever. Then Devin Booker is going to really heat up come around this time. The Suns have a lot of outlets in scoring, and then I think Aiden inside will play a big factor. I think that's why the Suns win it in 6. So if you guys enjoyed my NBA playoffs prediction and bracket, let me know what you guys' thoughts on my predictions, and I'll see you guys in the next video.